Hey, I had a really exciting opportunity here recently to do a podcast with the guys over at Relics Radio podcast. So Ken and Tony over there, they do a show every Thursday night. They brought me on as a guest, and this is recorded on the 4th of January, so about a month ago. I went ahead and recorded this. I asked them for the permission to re-air it here on my channel for you guys, for my subscribers, and they said go for it. So here it is, the podcast in its entirety, and man, these guys asked some good questions. Here we go, check it out.
Hey, let's bring our guest on tonight. Boy, I've been looking forward to talking with Mark, and let's see if we can bring him on.
I know, this is awesome. We, if you guys don't know this guy, you guys are missing out. You guys might know him as Brass Medic over on YouTube. He's got a great website called Expert Detecting, and just an all-around outstanding, well-rounded person. We're going to get into a lot of good stories, and we are pretty excited to bring on Mark Dayton, Brass Medic from YouTube. And Mark, thanks for joining us tonight, giving us your time, and it's great to see you and then also speak with you. So,
what's up, Mark?
Hey, Ken. Thanks. Anything called Relics Radio has my name written all over it.
There you go.
Right?
Perfect.
Yeah. Love the Relics, and
Yeah.
I love your show. I love listening to you guys, and it's a big honor to be on the show. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for joining us, giving us your time. So you're right in line with Tony and I tell you what, I was going to ask you that, but I think when Tony and I first started, we were really into kind of hunting some parks. I think we were doing some door knocking, and you find some great stuff there. But once we started finding relics, we now consider ourselves relic hunters, and we haven't been able to look back. So
yeah,
I like the relics.
I felt like I spun my wheels for about 6 or 7 years there, doing the same thing in the modern parks, and
Yep.
when I could have been out looking for the relics. And now when I walk out the door, I have all these machines to choose from. 9 out of 10 times I'm going out the door for relics. So even with the gold, I live right on top of all kinds of gold, but the relics, they call. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. Mark lives right in like gold heaven area of California, so not too far from where I grew up and stuff. But I've told the story on the show before that I wasn't into detecting or prospecting back then. I'm kicking myself. And now my family has kind of moved on and kind of spread out, so I don't even know anybody in that area anymore. But we'll talk about that tonight, Mark. We'll talk about your gold prospecting and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, why don't we start there, right, Tony? Why don't we start there and talk about like how'd you get involved in the metal detecting community, and how and what came first, the chicken or the egg? The prospecting or the detecting?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say detecting for sure, and I think it was a pretty avid detectorist down in the Bay Area for about 5 or 6 years, where all I did really was just try to find schools, parks, and stuff like that. Where I lived in the area of Concord, California, around the base of Mount Diablo, there wasn't a lot of places to go look for relics really in that area, And the places that I did want to go were like the coal mines up there, like the Black Diamond mines and all that stuff in Contra Costa County.
Yeah,
totally off limits. Can't go in there with the metal detector. You can't go up into Tilden Park. And there was just so many places I couldn't go that relics were never really an option for me. Mm-hmm. So I was stuck and kind of relegated to be that coin guy. And of course, I got caught up in the whole how many silver coins can you dig in a day competition.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, then the early forums, back in the like 2001, I want to say 2001, 2002. I was on the old Kinsley forum, and that was all about just showing how many silvers you found, And it wasn't until I started going into San Francisco that I started finding relics by accident. And I kind of got introduced to some pretty cool relics in the Golden Gate Park area and some of the surrounding areas around the park. And at the beach, I'd find some cool stuff, and then I'd post it, and then I'd hear all these crazy, explanations about what I found and how they were from the gold rush. I was like, wow. So I just kind of started transitioning at that point. Then I met a guy named Ron Swenson, who turned out to be a really good friend of mine. Met him when I went to buy a coil from him way up in El Dorado Hills. And here I am coming from the Bay Area.
Wow.
And I go up there to see him, and he was just getting into the relics too. He was coming from the Midwest and the East Coast. He knew something about detecting for Civil War stuff. And we talked that day, and a year later, I find myself living literally right down the street from Ron in the same town. And then, so I looked him up and said, hey, remember me? I bought that coil from you. And we just had a pact at that point to both of us just get out of Oakland, San Francisco, and just let's go local right where we're at right now, and let's look for relics. And I went out and bought all the books, and just like a switch flipped, and I was all relics and no parks anymore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you're related to Ron, because I was looking at your links on your YouTube channel, and you have a link to his Relic Adventures with Ron Swenson channel, and we'll post a link down to his channel too, Tony, if you want to throw it up there. But
yep.
So that's a cool story. Like, he was kind of your mentor and stuff. Like, did he become like a mentor?
For sure, especially in the parks. I mean, that guy was just a silver magnet, and he taught me how to do what I call critical listening. Where, when he first met me, I found my fair share of silver just by trying to be in the right place and look where people might have been, other than just trying to wandering off, and try to find the greener grass. And then one thing I noticed about Ron is he would always stay right where you were finding stuff. He would never move out of that area. And then a couple of times he called me over when he first met me. He said, "What do you hear here?" And I'd listen to it. And he just started teaching me from day one. And I would hear a faint whisper, and sure enough, it was a wheatback at 14 inches or whatever, right? Or a Merc at 10 inches and, on edge. And he was just, like I said, so dialed in to the tones. Me being a musician, I think it was natural for me, but it was especially helpful for me to just get one-on-one coaching from him on the deep silver and the critical listening. And at that point, we would ignore the good signals. We were way past that. We were ignoring anything in the top 6 inches of the soil, and any good signal, we wouldn't even dig it. We were trying to find those whispers and those faint, and most of the time it was the good silver and, a couple nice pieces of jewelry or whatever. But so I met Ron and in the park realm, and we both started with relics kind of at the same time in the gold rush area. So we were both kind of new, and we weren't sure what we were finding. We're finding these 1850s gold rush buckles that were incredibly valuable, incredibly collectible, and a very personal item. I mean, the guy wore that thing every day, right?
Yeah.
They're beautiful, just masterpiece works of art, all made of brass, 2-piece. And we didn't know what they were. And we're all there going, "Dude, oh my God, dude." And we're just, churching it up on the video, but not really understanding what we had. So one day, Ron reached out and did a little research and found out that a guy had just written a book about those buckles. So we researched where he lived, and he was up in Auburn. A guy named Max Bell. Went up and met Max Bell and bought his book. And once we got the book, it was like looking at a baseball card collection. You have all the different years and all the different styles, and then it became a collecting thing, kind of. And then we targeted in real hard on the early sites. So if we're getting barbers or Mercs, we were moving on. We wanted the seededs, we wanted the early stuff. And so we started doing this, and we became very successful quickly with our approach to, and I'll tell you what my approach was in a second. But we found so many cool things so quick that Ron just said, "You know what, dude, we're both older now. We need to videotape this. Not because I want to be a YouTube star, not because I want to make money on YouTube, but someday I want to look back. And when I can't dig anymore, I want to go back and watch all these videos." So that's what we did. And he was the one that always did the editing and the post-production and all that stuff at the house. And our videos were mind-blowing. I mean, literally just too hard to believe. That so many people were just blown away by the gold coins and the big pieces of gold and the crazy amounts of buckles and rare things that we were finding. And here's, I'm going to tell you and all the viewers right now what our secret was. So what we did is we went from Sacramento to Hangtown, which is Placer, right? And in the gold rush, there was one road that went from Sacramento to Placerville. And there was one other road that went from Sacramento to Truckee. So those were the only 2 roads during the gold rush. We literally went and kind of reverse engineered all the maps that we had and figured out where those roads were. And then we furthermore went and tried to figure out where all the truck stops were. And what I mean by that is they called them way stations back then, but every mile or 2 or so, there'd be some kind of a structure, whether it was a place you could stop and water the animals or try Mrs. Johnson's pie or whatever it was, right? There was all these stations along these roads. And we would go to those places where these stations were, and this stuff had never been found by anybody else. We were the first machines in there. And that is why the incredible things that we were finding were so mind-blowing. It was a place that no one had ever tapped into,
Nothing better than that, man. My God.
Yeah. And then it kind of a funny thing, I was reading a book one time from one of the gals that lived in one of these houses, and she said that her servants lived across the street, And she said that whenever the drovers would come in, which I think were the big teams, that she would have them go downwind and down to the water to keep all the animals, and they'd have to sleep downwind with all their animals because she didn't want the smell or the flies. And they didn't want her noise either of, harmonicas and fiddles and people dancing. But we started thinking about that. And we thought, wait a minute, we need to start looking downwind of these structures. So then we had a whole new frontier. So we'd already hit all the buildings, right? Now we just went downwind and here's all this other stuff. It was just crazy. It was just, it was X marks the spot kind of thing.
I'm just fascinated by that, right? It's like, holy cow.
What's funny is, I don't know if you remember, Ken, you and we went just randomly door knocking, and we found that one house on the corner. Remember, we talked with the owner, and they had said that on the other next door property, which used to be part of the original house right there, is where the slave house used to be, or the servant house. And it was across kind of that same exact thing. You do a little bit of research, and then all of a sudden, a word of mouth, and the stories get passed along, and then they're sending you different areas. And, as much research as you could do, you probably weren't going to even figure that out. And now you're on that site that nobody else has hit. Nobody else knows about, really. Amazing.
Right.
Amazing. Yeah. Greg's with a YouTube channel called Finding America, and he's in our chat group, and he said that he used to love watching your old videos with the buckles and especially those amazing gold coins that you found in the old camps. So he used to watch them back then. And Matt Odom, Ski Searcher, he said that he saw the episode you did recently where he found a slave tag and a very neat piece of history. So we got some people that are watching your stuff in here, and very cool. Like, what made you branch off from Ron and decide to start your own crazy YouTube channel? It's not, Tony and I both do it. It's, we're kind of crazy.
Well, if you look at when Ron moved from California back to Virginia, that's when I took the channel. And it was because we couldn't call it California Relic Adventures anymore. And we couldn't go detecting anymore because we're so far apart, right? And I always let him do all the post-production, and I always wanted to. And I think a couple of times I kind of nudged him and said, hey, let's do a couple reviews. Let's do some instructional stuff, man. I mean, we got this down, and we kind of wanted to, but never did. And with my band schedule, I certainly didn't want to take on being a production guy or the filming guy or I didn't want to do all that, right? I had too much going on. But when he moved, I was forced to continue. And then when I thought about it, I thought, well, here's the time to just make this channel all about instruction and, reviews and things like that. But it just so happens that after about the first 10 videos like that, I did get a nice group of people that come, but several people were complaining to me that they knew us from the old channel. Yeah. They want adventures. So then I ran a poll on my new YouTube channel. I said, what do you guys want? Do you want adventures? So it's 70% wanted adventures. And I thought, okay, well, here's the problem with that. So when I make an adventure, I get about 1/10 of the views I get on the instructional stuff.
Yep.
So, I'm trying to balance it right now, but I get a good warm, fuzzy feeling when I do the instructional stuff too, because look at the comments. I mean, every comment all the way down is this video is amazing. It helped me, and I got a grip on the machine now. So trying to balance it all. And then, throw in meteorites now. So, meteorites too. So that's on my channel. So,
yeah. People need it. I mean, you look at the view count, it's obvious people need that. People want that, and people appreciate that. So, I mean, that's why we're on YouTube. We're on YouTube to try to give back to the community, try to give something to the community that they can enjoy or they can learn from or whatever. And you're doing a great job with it, man. You've been on your own channel there for about 3 years, and you got a lot of subscribers. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is due to a lot of the instructional tip videos. You got how-to videos and review videos. And it's a great channel. And we've got, if you're listening on the replay and you're just joining us, maybe you're catching us late or you're downloading the show later, down in the description of the podcast, you're going to find links to all of Mark's social media and his website. Definitely head on over there. We're going to actually post Ron's in there so you can go look at some of the old videos we're talking about. I mean, it goes back, I think he started like 11 years ago. And so you can really go back and watch a ton of videos. And as I'm scrolling through, Relic Adventures with Ron Swenson's videos, he like puts on the thumbnail some of the cool things they were finding, and it's like a museum page. Like I'm going through video after video after video, and there's gold coins and there's chimes and these amazing buckles. And you know, boy, I advise you all to go take a look at both those channels for sure. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, Ron's got a good style, right? When he talks and he looks in the camera, he's just one of those guys that you really enjoy watching, and you just can't get enough of his voice and his style, you know, just the way he is. But I'll tell you guys, there's some funny stuff in there too, because you know, we're both California guys, and we'll say dude a lot, and people tease us because, oh, dude, you know,
dude.
But one day I dug a real, right? And it was just starting to get dark and the light was getting a little low. And I brushed off the grass, and we knew it was enough, you know, saw enough of it to know that it was silver and thin. So there was a clue that it was going to be a real. And I remember Ron said, oh, dude, don't touch it. It was 11 dudes. I went back and counted it. There was 11 dudes. And then he said, don't touch it. You know, and then he got his camera out, you know, it was just kind of funny. But
dude.
Yeah. We were characters, you know, and I remember him saying one time, I think on something crazy like a big piece of gold or something, just a whole string of unintelligible text. I don't even know what he was saying. You know, like just nothing was coming out.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no words, you know, it's just crazy, but it's fun to listen to and fun to watch. You could see us progress from kind of newbies into being, you know, self-proclaimed experts, you know.
Did you say a lot of Hecka and Hella?
No, we didn't do that one. Yeah. We tried to watch our language and keep it family friendly. Yeah. But there's plenty of dudes. So
plenty of dudes. Yeah. Hey, we had a question come in. You mentioned, go ahead, Tony, you want to take that from Gigmaster, Stephen Andrews.
Yep. Overlay in the live chat right now says, what is the biggest meteorite you found?
Oh, you know what?
You're talking about that. Yeah.
That's a great question. So last year in August, I was at a show with my band, and I'm up on the stage playing, and we're just getting ready to start. And my phone kept ringing. It was my brother, and I thought, man, this must be an emergency because he's called 3 times in a row. So I answer it quickly, and he says, "Hey, are you going to Utah?" And I said, "No, I'm in San Francisco at a show." And he says, "Well, I think you're going to be going to Utah in the morning." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because a meteor just flew right over Salt Lake City and broke up over the town with sonic booms and everything. It's caught on all these cameras." He goes, "You need to go out there because I think it landed in the flat desert out there in the just west of town." And he was right. So the next morning, you know, I drove 12, 13, 14 hours, whatever it was. And I was on the ground that evening, and I went out there with about 5 other guys in the middle of absolute nowhere. And I have a video on my channel you can watch about this. And I took the time to stop in the video and just do a 360 to show you guys no other human beings for miles in any direction, just a pool table, flat, bright white sand, dry lake bed surface where you could see a black rock, you know, from 100 yards away sitting on top of that white sand, right? Well, anyway, me being a day and a half late, all the easy stuff was gone. And I was way out there on my electric bike. My electric bike got me out to where I wanted to be, but the battery had died. And I just set the bike down, and I was just about ready to resign the day and head back in. And I noticed you could see where everybody was walking. There's footprints out there on that soft sand. And you could see where they were riding quads and other wheeled, you know, bicycles or whatever. But this one hole, I saw a hole in the ground about the size of a cantaloupe. And it had like an impact ridges coming up on it. And, you know, when I walked up to it, I looked down. The first thing I noticed was there was no footprints, no tire tracks. And I thought, hey, this is good. This is good because no one's been here yet. So then I got my camera out, and you'll see the rest of it on the channel, on my channel, on that video. But with the camera on, I said, hey, guys, I just found this hole in the ground. It looks like an impact crater. It's pretty big. And I'm the first guy here. So with the camera, I start digging down. I get about, 8 inches down. Sure enough, there's a black rock in there. And yeah, so Gigmaster, what happened was I popped out a big, 484 gram, huge, fresh meteorite that for 4.5 billion years was flying around in space. And here it is in my hand now. Like, that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I popped it out, and I held it in my hand. 2 things came to mind. Number one, there was no one there to share the moment with. I'm like, just me in the middle of the desert. Like, there's not even worth doing a woohoo or nothing because there's no one there.
Yeah.
So I just, and then I started realizing, holy cow, this is crazy valuable, and I knew that only about 10 or 12 pieces had been found up until that point. And I knew by watching the group of guys that I'm kind of in touch with that kind of communicate secretly on these fresh meteorite falls. It's a very tight knit group. And I certainly had the biggest one. So I knew I had the biggest piece. So, yeah, to answer his question, that was my biggest one ever in size and value as well. But I went back to the hotel that night, and there was another meteorite hunter there from the TV show called Meteorite Men. They did three seasons. There was a couple stars on that show, and they had a guest guy that would always come on. His name is Sonny Clary, firefighter out of Nevada. And by the way, I'm a retired firefighter. So we've talked before about, just being firefighter buddies. Well, as I'm walking in, he heard this in the story from somebody else that I found this stone. And he goes, "Hey, Dayton, show me your stone." So I walked back across the parking lot and put it in his hand. And he's admiring it. And he asked me, where'd you find it? And I told him about the hole. And he just went, "Oh, no." I went, "What?" He goes, "Dude, I drove right past that hole." And I said, "Sonny, you did not." I tell you why I say that. There was no tire tracks. He goes, "Did you have a picture of it?" I go, "Yeah, here's a picture." So he zoomed in and he goes, "I was at that exact hole." And I go, "No, you weren't." So he was going to head home that night. He was all packed up and ready to go. Next morning, he gets out and retraces his entire path. Sure enough, there's a whole different hole there. He digs down 8 inches down, and he pulls out one about 50% bigger than mine.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Yeah, well, I'm not kidding. It was pretty crazy.
So you got him, you motivated him to go back and check that hole, the one he was at, man.
So he found the biggest one, which we call typically when you find the biggest piece, we call that the main mass. But since they were so big together, we had probably the two biggest chunks of that rock, when it came in. Most of that meteorite landed in the Great Salt Lake itself in the water. Only the heavy pieces kind of carry through inertia, and the lighter stuff falls off. So most of those pieces fell into the lake, but the bigger stuff went all the way down to where we found it. Wow. That was my biggest, to answer Gigmaster's question. That's the biggest piece I've ever found. Yeah.
That is so cool. I've never done that. I've always loved watching videos of people do and always had an interest in it, but I've never did that. Going back to kind of Ron though, I mean, how cool is that, Mark, that you had a mentor like that would take the time to go, "Hey, come over here, listen to this. I want you to notice something. You see how it's not tight, but there's a little squeak ahead and behind it. You know what I mean? And teach you all the ins and outs of what you're listening to, especially how to find those deep old targets." That's a great story, man. Like it is, and
I'm glad that you're bringing that up and revisiting that again, because that is an amazing thing. Because amongst us detectorists, there's a lot of competitiveness. I mean, there's a little bit of animosity sometimes. Guy finds something really good and somebody doesn't, it makes for a really awkward ride home, right? Well, for Ron to walk up to me and trust that I would be receiving, that I would let him teach me that, took one leap of faith. And then when I was receptive to it, then he realized, that he had a lot to teach me and that I was going to listen. And that whole day, I remember very clearly, we were at Snow Park in Oakland, California, when he took me up to the edge of the sidewalk and said, "Dude, this place is loaded with deep coins right here." And I swung over it and I thought, what's he talking about? And sure enough, every one of those little squeaks was a coin, and that's something that I do still to this day with my expertdetecting.com and my one-on-one teaching is I just put a pair of headphones on someone who walks with me, and we both have headphones going to the same machine. And I get to narrate what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking exactly. And there is no better training out there than you walking with me and hearing what I'm thinking while listening to it. And that's just, that's what it was doing for me. Yeah.
It's awesome. And you do offer that training? You do offer that out through your website?
Yeah. Yeah. That's especially for somebody that's brand new to a machine who's never used a machine before ever. And it's a brand new machine and they don't know the tones. And I do. I see the comments all the time on my instructional stuff. People say in different ways, they say something like this. They say, "How did you know through all those tones which ones to swing twice over?" And if you think about it from a beginner's perspective, how do we know that? How do we know which one to go back over and listen to again? And you almost can't respond to that, and they can't understand it in a video, but they can when they see it live and hear it live for some reason,
Yeah, I think a lot of new people that start out, it's so overwhelming because, especially, through iron or, whatever. I mean, it can be sensory overload. And I know that there's times when I have to to stop and turn off certain things because my brain is just overloaded. But yeah, being able to walk next to somebody as you're narrating it and then, oh, wait, did you hear that? No, here it is. You know, I mean, gosh, what a teaching.
I mean, good luck for a beginner to try to lay off those bangers. You know what I mean? The things that are blowing their ears off, that's only an inch under the ground. Beginner's going to dig those every single time, probably. So, teaching them how to ignore those, maybe, interesting, man. Really interesting. So yeah, well, we posted Mark's link down below to Expert Detecting. You head on over there, check out that website, see what he's got to offer over there, and I'm sure he would talk to you about machines and training and all that stuff. So go check that out for sure. So when did you get into gold prospecting? Like, did that come fairly right away, or?
Yeah, it did. I'll tell you why. Is one of our strategies, like I said, when we were at those way stations and places like that along the roads, we also had another strategy, which is to go on Google Earth and just look for places where there was tailing piles. And if there was a lot of tailings, that told us that the miners were there for a long time, and they wouldn't have done all that digging unless they were getting some, right?
Right.
And it also told us, this is more where we're coming from on this, it also told us that they were living there somewhere too, because this is typically months or a whole season's worth of digging. So they had to have been living there, and that's all we cared about, is where were they living, because we wanted to find their buckles, right? So we start finding all this crazy gold by accident. I mean, like epic, like 4-ounce nuggets, and I mean, we're walking from one relic site to another, and gold's popping up on our relic machines, and then we started realizing, where's our priority here? Is it the $250 buckle or the $7,000 nugget? So we realized that we're walking over gold, right? So then we both at the same time kind of decided to buy the best gold machines that we could get at the time. I think we had GPX 5000s, or we probably started on the 4000s.
Yeah.
Then we went to the 4500, and then we went to the 5000. We chased the technology through the years. And I remember Ron, when the 6000 came out. No, 7,000. When the 7,000 came out, Ron says, "Dude, I'm not getting it." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because I'll never dig $8,500 worth of gold." And I thought to myself, that's weird, because you don't have to dig $8,500 worth of gold. You could dig $1,000, $2,000, but the machine is still an $8,500 machine. It's not like you gave up the asset, right? So once we realized that, we kind of realized, let's just get the best that we can afford and always have the best machine, and they pay for themselves, But once we started looking for gold, then we ran into what we call the gold guys, right? And those guys are super competitive. That's a top secret group.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You ask a guy, any luck? Nope, no luck.
Never. They never have any luck, but they're always out there. Look,
right, yeah. And those are your best friends, right? They'll never tell you what they found. So anyway, and then because where we're detecting, we're finding all these gold patches. Me and Ron, we were killing it with the gold. And I think that we just trial by fire. We just, learned how to become good. We'd already had, good ears and good technique coming from the relic and park world, that it just crossed right over into gold. It's a whole different sound with those pulse induction machines, Took a little bit of time to get used to that. But it's still critical listening. And that's what we're so good at, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing we're realizing how to dig and where to go, and we're doing good. And that kind of, we never got gold fever. I'll be honest with you. I still don't have gold fever. And I have about 10 or 12 buddies that call me all the time to go look for gold. And I will do, like I told you off camera earlier, I'll do 9 relic trips compared to 1 gold trip these days.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is, because gold's more valuable and but I just have more fun with the history. That's all.
Yeah, and time too. I mean, it's a lot of work. Gold prospects are a lot of work, and you're spending all day, and your excitement is minimal per the hour, per the minutes, versus any tone you decide you're going to go after is exciting, whether it's junk or not. It's still exciting. So it's a little bit of a different thing, but I bet you do know people though where they've got gold fever. It's definitely a real thing, but you're lucky you didn't suffer from it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we were talking about the meteorite earlier when Gigmaster asked that question about the biggest meteorite.
Yeah.
And I mentioned something to you guys. I said, when I picked it up, I was the first human being ever to hold it, right?
You're right.
Well, I get that same feeling with a nugget. When I pop a nugget out of the ground, down a foot down in caliche clay, there's no doubt that I'm the first human ever to touch that. And there's a special moment with that, And I just sit there and admire it and look at it. And how I don't have gold fever, I don't know. I should, but I don't. Yeah, and I sell all my gold, by the way. I don't even keep it. So there's that.
Yeah, that little nugget has a history of travel and creation that is right up there with meteorites almost. But it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. That didn't form overnight. That's for sure.
Yeah. Tony, you see that question from Denny?
Yeah, I wanted to say welcome to Denny for coming on, meeting us over in the chat tonight, and had a great question. You or Mark, you or any of your buddies ever used the MineLab GPX 5000?
So I did. Yeah, I had it for quite a while, for at least a year and a half.
Good machine, huh?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what. The GPX 5000 is still the machine of choice in Australia. And I'll tell you why that is. It's because they have the 18 and 24-inch coils that go on it. And that is literally a game changer. Now, if there was an 18 or 24-inch coil for the 6000 or the 7000, they might entertain trying that. But the 5000 is still king in Australia. And I hear this from all of them. Yeah. And it's a great machine. It's just a little awkward, and the battery arrangement, the way that it's built, compared to today's machines, there's a bit of a,
right.
Just everything, how long it lasts. Some of the non-5000s, like the 4800, 4500, don't have backlit screens on them, and they're not waterproof. There's so many concerns about that design. And when the 6000 and the 7000 came out, man, everybody jumped ship except the Australians because of the increased depth that they get. Was there a specific question about the 5000 or?
No, I think Denny's a big relic hunter. He's been detecting for many, many, many years, and he has, as much as he can, I think he tries to get out the Digging in Virginia event out in Virginia, in Culpeper, Virginia. And out there, you got to use a PI machine for sure. And he probably uses that a lot when he's in heavily mineralized soil, where PI machine is regularly used. Have you ever been out to Virginia, anything like that, or any the Civil War site relic hunting in any of that red dirt out there?
I've never been to Virginia, no, but I've seen some pretty nasty dirt down in Texas. Yeah. I'm talking blood red dirt down in Texas that just runs the machines crazy down there. I had an E-track that I turned on down there, and that dirt, and it was crippled. I mean, it couldn't even hear a coin at 2 inches.
Yeah,
seriously, it's crazy. Yeah. Soil is just brutal in some of those places. But, I was going to tell you a story. A friend of mine invited me out to a site, and I found a whole bunch of cool relics around where there was an old saloon, and he was the caretaker of the property. And he's kind of a new detectorist. He went out there a couple of days after I found all that stuff and kind of discovered that the site was there. The old saloon was there.
Wow.
And he was back there messing around and dug 5 gold coins. It was 2 10s and 3 5s. And then he went home and got his 5000 and came back with his 5000 and found 2 more that were inches deeper than his other machine could even hear. So if it wasn't for the 5000, you never would have heard those last 2 coins.
I mean, I know drunk people drop money, but what are you dropping a gold coin for?
Well, here's the thing on that one. Yeah, really. Buddy Tom, he found the top to a purse, the 2 little pieces to an old coin purse.
Oh.
So there was 1 nugget, and I think it was 6 or 7 gold coins in total. All came out. He found the part of the purse, and then all that stuff is all kind of right there,
Whoever dropped
goosebumps.
that. Oh.
Goosebumps, right, Tony? Gee.
Right. And I was glad that it wasn't me that found that, because on that permission, I'd always be the guy who found the gold coins. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to keep going back and enjoy the permission, but I don't want to be that guy. So,
jeez.
I don't know. I don't know if I wouldn't mind being that guy.
You're right.
It's a catch-22, right?
It might be a good trade-off.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, going back real quick to what you talked about, and we're jumping around, and we're definitely going forward from here. But you talk about doing some detecting in San Francisco. Now, when I moved out here to Colorado in 2000, and that's when I started getting into detecting, I never thought about going back and trying to go into San Francisco, but we just had a guest on. How many weeks ago, Tony? Probably the last 2 shows, maybe 2 shows ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was a bottle digger.
Bottle digger.
He was Bottle Ned.
Yeah.
And he, in his interview with us on the show, he talked all about, he's always been in the bottles, but he went to San Francisco and met this old guy that's been doing it forever as his mentor, and really opened up his eyes to the treasure trove that is San Francisco because of the history and all the many, many years of destruction and, building and replacement and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why did you think to go to San Francisco to do detecting?
Right.
Well, just word of mouth, talking to other people that were like in my Mount Diablo Metal Detectors Club. And, I remember specifically hearing about a part of Golden Gate Park, which is a park that goes kind of from the coast right through the middle of town. And it's a very long, skinny park that's quite huge. And there's a lot of parts to it, But they talked about this one section called Big Wreck. And at Big Wreck, they told me that it's totally infested with gophers. And that if you went out there after a rain or during the wet season, the gophers would dig holes frequently and just pop coins and gold and jewelry and everything right up on top of the mounds. And you could walk from mountain. And I always heard this story, right? So I had to go. So me and Ron, we made a trip out to Big Wreck. And sure enough, the first day that I was there, one of the first holes I looked at had a buffalo nickel just sitting right there. I'm like, wow, this is real. And then I go up a couple more holes later and I see gold glinting out of the dirt. And it was a 1913 Fresno State University gold college ring. And
oh my gosh,
I did a little research on that ring, and it turns out it was only the 2nd or 3rd year of the Fresno State University, and it made the front page of the Western Eastern Treasures magazine and the find of the year and all that. Made the what do they call that? The banner on TreasureNet. They got a little bit of fame to it, and the college bought it from me. They ended up putting it in their museum.
wow.
But so it was true. You could walk around on top of the gopher mounds and there was just stuff right there. And then I realized, I kind of did a research and I figured out the reason why all that stuff was there is because in the 1906 earthquake, that whole park became a refuge city for everybody that was homeless. And they were all living in there for like 3 years from 06 to like 09. And all their stuff was just spread across the whole entire park. So that's kind of, I was word of mouth through the club, Mount Diablo Metal Detectors Club. Then I went out there and saw it. And then I just made a bunch of trips out there to check it out, in different spots. But there's always 10 or 15 detectorists out there every day, any given day.
Sounds like a great spot. Keeps giving. Jeez.
Love that.
That's insane.
Hey, you ever come across, you ever discovered or found any of those California gold coins? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Octagonal shaped coins.
Yeah. Private minted coins, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's those, and there's also the Mormon coins, too, that are out here. They're out here somewhere. I live really close to an epic story about the Mormon church, how this one hill right by my house is not a very big hill. It's only about 150 feet high and maybe 500 feet by 300 feet wide and long. Mm-hmm. This one hill, this guy was going from what they call Mormon Island back and forth between there and his house on the Consumnes River, and he was a Mormon. The Mormon Island group of miners were a communal dig, and they took all the gold and put it in the same hat at the end of the day, right? And they would share it with the church, and that's why they were there. So this guy riding back to his river, or back to his house on the river, came across this hill and noticed that it was a giant hill of quartz. And so they started chipping into it and saw that it was very rich with gold. And so him and his 2 sons, he went back and got his 2 sons, came back and built a cabin right near the hill. And for the next year, they blew almost half that hill up and went down and crushed all those rocks and took all that gold and put a 3-inch high gold floor in the bottom of a wagon and then covered it with wood and coffee beans and fur, and took that, what do they call it? The gold train. And literally took that train right back to Brigham Young himself and delivered it to the church when the church was almost completely bankrupt. They were on their last dollar, literally. And had that train not showed up full of gold, that was the end of that church, right? Well, they have coins. He took that gold out of the back of that wagon and he melted all that gold down. And he it cost him about $3 to make a $5 gold coin. So that's what he did, is he almost doubled his money.
Mhm.
And those coins got to be out here everywhere. I've never found one, but the privately minted stuff like the Kellogg's and the Moffats, man, dude, some of those are $1 million.
Yeah. Very, very rare to find those. Yeah, it's real cool.
It's funny you had mentioned the gold coin. That was something that Ken and I, we have this shared doc, and the topic was California gold coin. And I had written Mormon gold coin. I was kind of out in that area as well, up in Wyoming though, and that on my bucket list. I know it's close out there, and geez, to be able to find something like that that's pretty rare. I mean, to be honest,
Pretty rare. I didn't even know about them until who do we have on, or were we just talk? Who do we have on that brought that up? Oh, Key Date Kid.
Yeah,
I think it was him, right? Yeah,
yes,
he was talking about it, and he talked about this Mormon
about the
coin.
Mormon. Yeah.
Mormon coin. When we started that, and then we're doing the research, talking to him, and while we're talking to him, like we're doing to you right now, we're on Google, we're pulling it up. Oh, Mormon gold coin. We're like, oh my God, it's got a beehive on it. You know,
yeah.
You know what I like about it the most is how crude it is. It's so crude. Like
sure.
Everything is just so. It looks so cool. It's crude.
Yeah.
Not like
it didn't come from some big professional mint. You know what I mean? Somewhere.
Right. Yeah, it has almost like an ancient look to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Someday, right? Shoot. Someday.
Yeah. They're out there. I mean, those
that'd be crazy.
Privately minted coins, they're around. That I'm sure a couple of them. I know one was found in Alaska about 10 years ago in an outhouse in a privy. So guy was digging for in the Klondike, and sure enough, octagonal $50 gold coin was in there. And there's also I think there's some Oregon Territory gold too that I've heard about. Privately minted. So, but yeah, you find one of those, man. Name your price, really.
Sure.
So comfortable, yeah.
Wow.
But I'll tell you, you want to hear something crazy about Brass Medic?
Yeah.
Yes. Coins. All my coins are in books put away, and the only thing on display in my entire, what I would say is like a museum at my house, is just relics. So I like the coins, but I love the relics. So.
Hey, that brings up a point. Where did Brass Medic come from again?
Well, I was a paramedic, right, for 23 years working for the fire department. So when I started getting into these brass buckles and Max Bell's book, and, me and Ron, we've always been kind of really willing to clean and tinker things and try to conserve and fix stuff that was broken that we were finding. And we started finding these buckles. We started experimenting with ways to fix the bent ones. And then I had one that was pretty tore up, and I mailed it to a guy. He's out of Virginia. I mailed it to him. He's a real famous Civil War restoration guy, buttons, everything, but mostly brass. And the buckle was completely, like, literally torn, broken, bent, and just garbage. I sent it to him. 6 months later, it comes back in just museum quality condition. And I was like fascinated about how this guy do this, right? So I tried so many times to talk to him, and he would leak little bits of information out to me. Then I met another guy, and the next thing I know, I am one of these buckle repair guys, and I got real good at it. What I did is, when I get the piece and I look at it, I study it to figure out what caused the damage exactly. What were the forces and what were the order of events that those forces occurred? And then I simply just reverse each force in the reverse order. And slowly but surely you can bend it back to, just like a body and fender guy does.
Sure.
And the next thing I know, everyone's called me Brass Medic. So that's kind of how I was called that for years before the YouTube channel.
There you go.
That's great.
Restoration stuff. Yeah.
It makes total sense for sure. So the gold coins that you found, do you think you found any that were any gold coins that you can definitely trace or think that they were issued to Civil War era soldiers back in the day? They paid those soldiers with a lot of those gold coins. What do you think about that? Like, were you in a military travel area on some of those gold coins?
Really, Ken. We just don't have that much of a military presence here. The only military presence that we've come across, and that we fascinate about sometimes is, it's kind of pre-gold rush. In 1846, 3 huge ships came into San Francisco. It wasn't called San Francisco then; it was called Alta California. But they sailed in. There's a very famous painting of those 3 ships and several other ships coming in. And then the artist took the time to name off every ship. He put letters like A, B, C on every ship. And then down below, there's a legend telling you which each ship was. And 3 of those were the New York Legion Volunteers under Colonel Stevenson. And Colonel Stevenson's regiment of New York Volunteers, they were sent here in 1846, 2 years before the gold rush, right?
Wow.
When they got here, they all mustered off of their ships to different posts. And every one of these guys were young kids, and they was just men, and they were all brought over here with trades. Like there'd be a shoe cobbler, a cook or a chef, and somebody who could tan hides, a cabinet maker or whatever. And so all these soldiers were sent here to help build the infrastructure for more soldiers to come at a later date. But they also kind of knew there was already rumblings in Southern California about a gold rush. So there was already a lot of gold being found down in Southern California. We don't hear about that, but it was enough that it made these soldiers feel like they needed to be here in case it was found, up here, or some of them mustered down south. But anyway, the NYL, we call them, they were here, and there was probably about 300 of them. I'm just pulling this number out of thin air. I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say there's about 300 in total. And we find their buttons, and their buttons are, the holy grail of California finds. When you find an NYL button, it's something special, So, other than that, the stuff we see here is post. Think about it. I mean, the Civil War is 1861. That's many years after the gold rush. And if you're talking to me and Ron, if we're finding 1861 stuff, we're not too excited. We want the, what I'm saying? We want the stuff. Yeah. So we do find some of the stuff from the soldiers when they came back home to California, but generally speaking, not much military is found here.
Right.
The gold coins that I found were all just standard issue, $20 gold pieces. I found 4 of those. And I'll tell you, when you look at the trusts and the deeds and land trusts and deeds, every one of them that was during the gold rush, and I would say all the way up to 1865, 1870, they all say the same thing right at the bottom: paid for in gold coin. So they would sell a piece of land for $240, paid for in gold coin. So that's why there were so many $20 gold pieces here. And there's been a lot of guys that have found them in our area.
Wow.
Looks like I got to go to California. Got to go back.
I know.
Family.
Yeah. $20 gold coin.
That's a big old chunk of gold, boy. I tell you what, you see that come out of the ground. Tony, you found a $5 one, and you were, shaking in goosebumps. I mean, as you should have.
And that was heavy. I mean, to me.
Oh yeah,
$5 gold coin.
The weight is just crazy. It feels like about the weight of 2 Morgan dollars in your hand. It just pulls so hard on your hand.
Jeez.
It doesn't make sense what you're seeing pulls that hard.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey,
I was gonna say we had a bunch of guys on one video. I found 3 $20 gold pieces in one hole. They were kind of spread around, and one was deep, and a couple were like 6-8 inches. But I got a lot of people on those videos saying, "Oh, that's bull crap. You planted that," And it's some people that don't dig. They don't understand the people that do dig, I should say, they know when it's a real dig, and they know when the coins come out that it's legit, right? But the other people don't. And I always come back and say, yeah. So what I did is I went down and took, $15,000 worth of gold coins, buried them in the ground, and scratched the crap out of them to make a non-monetized video.
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I got a lot of that with that find, but it was all legit, and you'll see that we just didn't. No words could come out of your mouth. It was just I just kept saying, "Wow, just wow." It's crazy.
No, I agree with you. When on my $5 gold video, comment after comment, how did you know it was a $5 before you pulled it out? Well, when you talk about gold coins, you got the $1, the 2.5. I mean, they look differently based on the sizes, and you can tell before you clean it off. It's going to be if you find a 20, it can't be anything else. But people were asking me tons of times. How did he know that's planted? He knew it was 5 before you plucked it, based on the size of it.
And Tony, those are all guys who've never dug before, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
people that's all it is. Yeah.
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 It'd be like asking me how I knew mine was a $1 gold coin. Well, it's the smallest produced gold coin ever. Smaller than a trime, you know what I mean? So, yeah, kind of knew what it was. Crazy. You ever dig privies or go after bottles, Mark?
Is
that in your repertoire?
Not really. I'm more of a poser in that whole world. I know a lot about bottles just through osmosis and going to the shows. And the reason I go to the shows is because we buy, sell, and trade relics at the shows. And I also have an annual relic show that I do here in California every year that's just huge. And all the all the greatest minds in California Gold Rush, from academia to the diggers, are all in this building under one roof. And just because I'm in there with all my relics, I get to see all these bottles, right? And I've learned a lot about it. I have the probes and everything, but honestly, no, Ken, I haven't. I've never really got into digging previous. I want to, but I just haven't got into it.
Yeah,
I'm walking through some crazy bottles, man. I know I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Ken and I, but we've done it before, and we have an interest and a passion about it. Just again because it's kind of the relic side of things versus the coin side of things, and like you said earlier, we love digging those relics. I think it drives us. But yeah, we talked to BottleNet about that, and he ran down the whole history of San Francisco and the bottles that he's dug and things like that. It's absolutely amazing,
right?
Oh my gosh,
got us all excited.
Did he
Yeah, we can go knock it over.
Right.
Did he talk about the Transamerica building when they were digging the foundation of that?
I think he did.
Yeah.
Those guys, I heard the stories that they found those 1850s bottles like stacked like quarter, just one after another in rows. Just crazy.
Yeah, I believe he did tell that story.
Yeah,
man, a lot of crazy stuff too.
Oh.
It's a great interview. If you get a chance, Mark, head on back there to our
you'll be able to
Relics Radio and check that out for BottleNet. You'll really like it because he talked a lot of history of California, especially the Bay there and San Francisco area, more than I ever knew. You know what I mean? Growing up there,
Definitely.
Hey, what's treasure box, Mark? Is that something you started up and?
Yeah, it was kind of an experiment with my name, and so I thought that's cool, treasure box. I typed it in one day to make sure there was no other treasure box, and that was going to be the name of the channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put up like 4 or 5 videos, and every time I go to search for them, I would see this channel out of China. And if you type it in right now on YouTube, you'll see why I changed the name quick. So I typed it in first, and I noticed that there was hundreds and hundreds of these Chinese videos with the same name. So I knew I was in muddy water, and I stuck with it for about 6 months. I probably should have changed it quick, but then I eventually changed the name and kind of changed everything over to Brass Medic. But Treasure Box was what I wanted to call the channel to begin with, and not my name, Brass Medic or Mark Dayton, but just kind of a.
Yeah. Well, I had to just go do it.
I did too.
You did you?
Oh yeah.
Sitting there looking at it.
Crazy, yeah. Hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a smart decision. Good job.
That was buried. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, hey, man, let's start getting to some of the stuff that you found and some of your favorite finds and all that stuff. Like, do you have one find couple things. One, do you remember the first find you found that gave you that feeling that you knew you were going to do this for a long time? The oh, wow find, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to believe because I was so young when it happened, but we're going to go back and date myself a little bit here. In 1973, my mom got me a metal detector from Radio Shack. This little thing, I was always going to the store at Radio Shack and look at that. And what I was mostly fascinated by was the box, because it had some pirates digging a treasure chest up. And inside that was something that could make me think that I could find a treasure chest, So I got it for a gift. I don't know if it was my birthday or Christmas or what it was. And I remember turning it on in the front yard once or twice. And then 3 years later, I'm out with my brothers up in the foothills around Mount Diablo, and near those towns I was talking about, those coal mining towns. And we found a little area where I think we were all just looking for snakes or something that day. And I came around a corner and I was on a flat way up high on a hill. And I could look down at the dirt and there was like old hammers and horseshoes and just metal everywhere. So I ran back down to the house, and 30 minutes later, I come back up with a fresh battery in this machine I've had for 3 years, turn it on, and I started swinging it. I was finding forks and knives, just all this cool stuff. And it just so happens that the one that really got me was a cast iron stove door, and I still have it in my studio. I'm not in my studio. I'm down in Phoenix right now, working on some filming on some shows down here. But up at my studio, I would show it to you if I was there. I still have it. It's a cast iron door, and it has that Mormon handshake on the front like this.
Oh, wow.
And I just picked that thing up and looked at it, and I just, I remember right then that I was completely hooked with treasure hunting. And they all went off and, looked for, I spent the rest of the day digging everything I could dig out of that field up there. And then a couple years later, I'm buying my own. Then my mom got me a better machine, and I finally got my own when I was like 17. I went and bought my own machine, and I just kept, I got the latest, greatest every time. Every time something would come out, I would just buy it, use it, and but that one find was the one that got me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still have it, that
says a lot.
It takes you back, and it, it started right then, just the passion.
Right.
And here's the thing about it too, you tell us about it and we're totally, you're our people, you know what I mean? Like you totally get it, but somebody visits your thing and you're like, hey, you're into metal tech? What kind of things have you found? You're like, look at this.
It's the front to a stove. Really? That's what you're excited about?
Let me just tell you, nobody else at my house was impressed with that thing at all.
Right.
And that's probably why I still have it, because it just got thrown in a corner somewhere and left, in the garage, and in my hands again. But
and now you're telling us it's your oh wow moment. You know what I mean?
I know.
That's
perfect. It was just a stove door. But I'll tell you another thing too, was when I bought my first machine, I was a security guard. I think I must have been 18. I was a security guard, not armed or anything, but I walked through a little shopping center, and I walked by the hardware store, and in the windows were all the metal detectors. And I'm standing there looking at them, and one day the owner walks out and goes, "You got to come in." He goes, "I see you guys all the time just staring. Come in. Let me show you the machine." So I walk in there, and he goes, "When's your next day off?" And I told him. So he goes, "I'm going to let you take this machine and try it. If you like it, you can buy it. If you don't like it, just try it." So he took me to one of the little parks right at the edge of Mount Diablo, and we get the machines out, turn them on, and we set it all up. And he walks over and he starts swinging under a bench, and his first signal was a barbered half. And two things came to mind. Number one is, if this really just did happen, I'm in trouble because I'm buying this machine, right?
That's right. Detecting's easy.
Yeah.
How easy you made it look.
There goes $450 of my hard-earned money, right? But then I also thought, did he plant that?
I was going to say, that's a great marketing scheme right there.
There is.
That does sell a lot of machines.
It was a leap of faith, and I trusted that he did, legitimately find it. And I bought the machine from him, and I, went out with him several times and found my own silver coins in the same spot. So
there you go.
But yeah, so that was my first real, when I bought my first machine, I knew I had a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, over in the chat, Ohio Relic Hunter asked about that Radio Shack machine. Was it called the Jetco Mustang?
I don't think so. No, it was orange, and it had a J hook style handle on it, little J handle, and the whole thing was extended. It was no more than 24 inches long, completely. And I just made a video. Yeah, they will. Yeah. It was a tan. It was tandy.
Did it have an orange handle on it?
Yeah.
I think it was called the Treasure Finder.
Yeah, that's it.
The 1970s Radio Shack Orange Metal Tech Treasure Finder.
Yeah.
So it was called. Yeah.
You're looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I looked it up. You still have it. Oh, look at that cute little thing. You're right. There's people digging up stuff on the box. That's cool.
So just for fun, I made a video last summer, or it might have been almost a year ago now.
Did you use it?
Yeah, I took it out. And I took it out with remember the Explorer 2, the MindLab Explorer 2? Remember that machine?
Yeah, go ahead.
It had this crazy, beautiful, some of the viewers will know, it's really fluty, beautiful musical tones on it, and you would sit there and swing over a silver dime 30 times before you even kneel down, because you just admire that signal, Well, I took the old school Radio Shack out and that thing out just to kind of go, reminisce a little bit, and made a whole video about it. It's kind of fun.
Wow. That is really cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Very cool.
Look at that machine. That's pretty awesome. That is 1970s. Holy cow.
Yeah, if you're listening on the replay, go down in the comment section. Tony's always posting links down there. We're always putting links to Mark's channel and Ron's channel, and then anything that comes up during the show, we always post a link to it. So make sure, if you guys are listening back, try and get on a computer or something where you can, or on your phone, you go down and look for links down below in the comment section.
Yeah, you can buy this on eBay right now, $20.
$20.
Radio Shack
in the box.
Treasure Finder. Yeah, that box is pretty brutal, but yeah.
Oh, I'd be willing to bet you that there's at least one or more people watching right now live that have one of those. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. How about it, Bill? Denny, you guys ever have that one? You guys are kind of old school. Greg, maybe you too. Yeah. Let us know if you guys if you had one of those, or what your first Radio Shack detector was. A lot of people that have been detected for a long time, Radio Shack was how they started. So
Yeah.
I came along a little bit later, so Bounty Hunter was my first start. Yeah. I'm looking through the chat now. They're having a good time.
Will Walsh. Will Walsh said he had one.
Will Walsh.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yep. That's awesome.
That's
He said, I've got 2 tin cans. That's what he has.
It has one knob, right? You turn it on,
Yeah.
and the same volume. It's not really a volume, but what the knob does is you just turn it until the noise stops.
Right.
And then you get down to the ground a little bit and make sure that you're right at that threshold where there's no noise. And then you start walking, and it'll go sound off on metal. But if it starts sounding off on the ground, you have to just barely adjust
Dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, that's one knob.
Yeah. Will Walsh says 9 volt all the way.
Right, yeah.
9
Is that the
volt
big 9 volt, or was it? You remember those detectors that had the huge? No, that has to be a standard 9 volt in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a small 9 volt, yeah.
You know those ones that had those giant batteries that had the gigantic, muffler type batteries.
Yeah.
So can you think of a find like I said, we're your people, so we know about getting goosebumps and kind of getting shaky and kind of, oh my gosh, I can't believe what you just found. Can you remember a find? And I'm sure gold coins are in there, but can you find any kind of relic that you found that you just went, whoa, I just found that?
So 2 come to mind right away. And off camera before the show, the 3 of us were kind of talking about this. The things that you can put, a personal attachment to a person on, a name or something. So those are the 2 that really got me. And I'll tell you about both of them though. So the place that I told you guys earlier where we were doing some research and the lady had written about her servants being across the street and the animals being out back.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That place was one of those houses along the way between Sacramento and Placerville. And her husband was the first first California state senator, by the way. But when he retired, they moved there and lived there and raised sheep on that property. And she had a very unique name. Her first name was Electa, Electa. So her whole name was Electa DeWolf Butler. So it was DEWULF Butler. So Electa DeWolf Butler. And I read all her diaries and everything she wrote about this. So I knew her name, and it was right on the tip of my tongue. And so one day me and Ron are at that site, and he called me over for a seated quarter. We're all jazzed because he got a seated quarter. And then I found the same exact signal, just, 2 or 3 feet away from him. And so here we are getting ready to dig this other seated quarter. And what it was it was a sterling silver thimble. And oh, dude, it's a sterling silver thimble. And I cleaned it. It was just gorgeous, beautiful. And what do we see when I wipe my thumb across it? Engraved right into it, Electa.
No way. Oh, my God.
Oh,
that's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that was super crazy. And then something like that, you want to try to find all of it. We want to find that relative, and say, hey, you have your grandmother's thimble,
Sewing thimble.
Did you?
Oh my gosh.
Did you?
I never did reach out or make that attempt to do. I should still. I still should.
You and I should talk. I do that a lot for people. I have a lot of genealogy research experience, and I've helped people return World War II and World War I dog tags and stuff and find existing family members. So, let's talk offline on that. That would be something I'd love to help you do it just for the story of having you do that. Because
what a follow-up story on that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's an author too. It's kind of funny. Electa was an author, and here's what she did. She got a lot of mail at their house was called the Halfway House or the 22-mile house. And by the way, it was literally 44 miles to Placerville. So the 22-mile house was halfway.
Wait a minute. Stop right there.
Yeah.
I know that 22-mile house.
Oh, okay.
I think I do. We used to live in Placerville up in Challenge, this place just above Placerville called Challenge, below Colgate. And I believe the 22-mile house, maybe that was a bar I'm remembering. No, I think it was the 22-mile house, man. I'm going to go talk to my mother after this about it because she'll remember it. Oh, that sounds so familiar to me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I was going to tell you what she did is she intercepted all the mail, right? And she would open the mail so she could see who the mail was going to, because people would come there, week after week after week just to pick up their mail that was stacking up.
Wow.
And every single love letter that she read, the ones that were real beautiful, she rewrote them in a journal, and she copied the love letter, the words, the really nice ones. And she ended up becoming an author. And she has a book that you can, in the library in Sacramento. And her book is literally pages of just all the love letters she intercepted. So anyway, kind of funny that, and I got one other one to tell you about, a Frenchman who came to Sacramento, and this is old Sacramento when it was, 1850s. That part of Sacramento, he was a Frenchman and he was a chef, and he came into Sacramento, built a 2-story restaurant. And they say it was the finest restaurant in town, and it was the only French restaurant in town. It was very popular, and people from all around the world would come in there and eat there. And they talk about how incredible it was. Then he sold it. And a year after he sold it, he went right across the street and built another one. And I'm sure the guy that the last one was pretty upset, right? But when he built the second one, he had some forks and knives and everything, and all his tableware was custom, and it had his name on it. So fast forward to, just a few years ago, out at a site near where his current family members live now. And sure enough, I dig this beautiful, heavy fork that's like way heavier and way more beautiful than any fork should ever be. And the plating is gone, but you just look at it and you're just like, where do you get this fork? Who made these? Like, who would make something like this? And I flip it over, and on the back it says LP and Co. And that's Louis. That was right out of that hotel.
Wow.
That was just kind of crazy too. So, and on that one, Ken, I did find a relative, and we'll talk about that. You might be able to help me find her again.
Oh, okay.
But we kind of lost track of her, but I want to give it back to them too. That family's local. So,
I mean, the personal finds, right, Tony?
Yeah.
We talk about all the time. Crazy. Like I've got, my last name's King. I got King family property that I have access to. And I've never went and detected. It's like 8 acres. If I ever go there and find something with a K on it, or a King on it, or my great grandfather's, whose property it was, his first name or something, or scratched into something. Oh, that would be, blow my mind. It'd be the end of all.
Just this week, you and I both got a text from our friend Cindy. She found a World War I dog tag, clear as day. You can read the name on it, and you were able to figure out.
I found
this
him.
Guy's life story.
Yeah, I found him, and that's what's cool is when you research these people, you get to know them. They feel like family because, like, I know where he was born. I knew his family and his sisters, brothers, and his parents, and all that stuff. And then you find existing people that are connected to him somehow. And I've done that, but I haven't taken the next step, which is actually let's get together and find out who the best person might be to receive that message, and then call them and say, hey, ask a few questions just to make sure I got the right person. But just an amazing dog tag that she found, and it's got a lot of information on it. So pretty cool.
There's nothing better than those personal finds, man.
There's nothing.
Agreed.
That's my favorite thing.
I agree, and I think that's why we gravitate towards the relic side of it, is because it kind of, I know coins are personal, they would hold them, and so they would, have them as bracelets and all that type of thing. But, just this past week, we were digging up, like we were talking about at the beginning, at this old house, I found a pocket knife. That was special and to that person, because they used that for a lot of different things during that time,
100%, dude. Yeah.
So it's very personalized. And that's,
if you think about a knife, like a Bowie knife,
sure,
for a gold miner, that was how you cut your food. That's how you dressed game. That's how you chipped ice. That's how you whittled wood. That's how you protected yourself against a grizzly bear. I mean, if you didn't have a knife, you were in trouble.
Right.
And if you you're in trouble. Those knives are so personal. Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's why, I would speak for the three of us, probably why we're gravitating towards the relic side of things, because they can be so personal. Oh my God. And to find something with names on it, or addresses, or all those kind of different things. Oh, wow. I mean, just talk about a specific pinpoint of history just drives me. Holy cow. That's amazing.
It's like that one you found that had Boone carved into the handle.
Yeah. It was about that long. I don't know. I've looked for Boone. It's a pretty
Boone.
common name. Yeah.
But I found one right next to it that had Crockett type.
You're right. They were friends, that Crockett and Boone. Hey man, tell us this crazy horse story. We got about 10 minutes left.
Mark,
It's already blown by.
The things you see, right, when you're out metal detecting. And here's the problem with some of these sites that we found. They were on the edge of current roads. So we get these permissions to go out on these properties. But the one fear that the landowner always had was don't be seen along the edge of the fence by the cars driving by with the metal detector, because other guys are going to go, oh, you can detect here.
Right.
And then it's fair game, right? So we would have to go out there at night or in the fog, or we was always undercover, to get into some of these sites. Like we would just drive by all day, foaming at the mouth, trying to get in there. But we had to wait till night to get in there, right? So one night I'm out there with Ron, and then it was my daughter's boyfriend, but now my son-in-law. And we're out there detecting, and we're in a field where there was like 6 or 7 horses. And, I've had horses walk up to me on sites and literally escort me right off the property. They walk up to you and they get their nose and just hit you up. Let's go. Here we go.
Keep moving.
And they just walk right to the fence. And then when you jump the fence, they stand on the fence and look at you like, yeah, you want to come, So one time I'm out there, and I'm a little on edge about this horse, because every time I kneel down to dig, he creeps up on me about another 2 or 3 feet, like he's plotting on me, right? So it was getting closer and closer, I'm thinking, what is up with you, man? So I would almost trick him, like, to see if he was moving on me when I'm just detecting. And I'm looking out the corner of my eye, and he's not. So sure enough, I dig, and I get up, and there he is. And it's something very unnerved by this. So I looked at Ron and Andrew. I go, what's up with this horse? And they go, what horse? And I go, this horse right here. And I point, and it's right there. It's like 20 feet from me. It's literally right there. And it was butterscotch color, like yellow, So you can't miss it at night. You can see it perfect. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. And they go, what horse I go, right there, that horse right there. So I get my flashlight out, and I put my flashlight in the direction of the horse. And right when my light turned on, it was like literally whatever was there in my mind was an apparition, because it just vaporized and there was nothing there.
Oh.
I sat there like, what? Wait a minute. How's that possible? I watched that thing. It was clearly in my mind. It was moving up on me all the time. Turned a light on, and it wasn't there. And they just looked at me like, what's up with him? But anyway,
gosh,
isn't that kind of weird though? I don't know.
It's strange.
It's kind of freaky.
Must have tweaked your mind a little bit.
It did. Yeah. The stuff we see, and 15 years of detecting with Ron Swenson, man, I've seen some crazy stuff. So
I bet we could tell stories. We're going to have you back on, because I know you got a lot more stories, I'm sure.
When I come back on, we got to get Ron with us. Trust me.
Oh my gosh. That'd be so wonderful.
We'll talk off camera. We'll get that going.
Yeah, let's do that. Tony, do you think your moose that you ran from was an apparition?
No, that was very real.
Are you sure?
And so was the load in my drawers, because that was very real. Very, very real.
Oh my gosh.
That's like 1,000 pounds, isn't it? It's something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a mama moose that just birthed the calf, and
just
she was not happy.
Oof, I'm getting goosebumps again because I'm reliving the whole situation. So you're talking about, being uneasy about this horse. I had an incident back in my younger years. I used to ride bulls, and I was injured in a bull riding accident. So, injured multiple times riding bulls. But those large animals, man, they unnerve me. And I'm around horses right now, and large types of animals, and I tell you, I'm still unnerved about that kind of stuff. And that's kind of weird though.
I rode bulls too, and you get to know real quick the power of those animals and how quick they could kill you. Just a horse
in
too.
An instant.
One kick and you're dead. Yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing me and you could talk about that the viewers could never appreciate unless they did it is you sit on the back of a bull, and when that gate opens, you go from 0 to like 100 in a split second. The G forces must be off the chart. That's literally like you're blown out of a cannon or a slingshot, and you just kind of wake up out there on the dirt on top of the animal, and you're like, whoa, it's a crazy.
You think that's why people do it? It's because of that adrenaline rush? Because you got to come up, you got to rise to the occasion with your adrenaline and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, it was just I grew up in a rural area, and it was peer pressure. We all did it, and it was fun. It was fun but scary.
Get on and hold on. Come on, Mark. Don't be a sissy. Get on.
And then I got too tall to ride bulls, man. You got to be short and stubby, and the taller you get, the more weight you got going. So
Yeah.
That-
Yeah.
that's
We'll,
crazy.
we'll definitely talk about that because mine went forward. Yeah. So, yeah.
that's scary when you go forward. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
of
real quick,
course.
we helped. I'm leader of this team within our detecting club called the Heart Historical Artifact Recovery Team, and I'm the team leader for that. And we look for community service projects to do where we go out and help recover items, and everything is left there, or whatever the parameters are for the people that bring us out. And we help this local college archaeologist actually, who wanted to document this Battle of Julesburg here in Colorado. It was a Native American battle after the Sand Creek Massacre. Actually, it was their response basically to that. And we went out there, and over 2 summers and how many hours, I don't know how many people, but we discovered 3,500 artifacts. And so now they know a lot more about that they never knew, because then when they burned the town, all the square nails came straight down. And so they know the outline now with the GPS locations they did. They know the outline of the building. They know where the directions where the projectiles went, how far up into the foothills the battle extended. Like, they know all that now because of the efforts we did as metal detectors. And it was a great collaboration. And he noted that in his papers, said without these metal detectors, their willingness to do honest work and leave everything behind and not take anything and help document for history, we wouldn't have had half this stuff. The only thing that I didn't like is when I was out walking around, I found a really good, like, prehistoric worked piece of stone. And they took it. This isn't part of the battle, man. This is pre-battle. Let me take this.
Now I wonder, is that in a drawer somewhere in a college, or is it someone?
You know, it is. No, it's somewhere buried in a drawer in a box somewhere. You know,
Right.
I think it is. I don't have it. I'm just like, hey, see if I can get that back. And I go, nope. They're going to look into it and get back to you, and then they didn't get back to me. So
that's too bad.
But we sure contributed to the history of that place and that battle. And it felt so good to do that. So
archaeologists that don't reach out to our hobby are fools, because, man, we could literally put flags right on the corners of a structure.
Yeah.
I mean, boom, 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 and just boom, there it is,
There it is. Yeah.
And they should reach out more to us and use us. Ron went to, I don't know where Monticello is, on the back of the U.S. nickel, Thomas Jefferson's home, I believe it was, his childhood home. That's the building on the back. And Ron got invited there as a detectorist and worked with state parks and recovered a bunch of artifacts there. The same thing, they just would mark them and they come over and recover them with the detectorist. But nobody got to take anything home. But he said it was very fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. I would love that opportunity, right?
Yeah, right.
We're always looking for opportunities to get out as our group, and we've done quite a few projects. Where they're going to level the ground. It's been around for hundreds of years, and they're going to level it. And we get in there, grab everything we can grab, document it, give it to the people. Before some big developer comes in there and destroys everything. So yeah, we're always looking for opportunities for that. But hey, Mark, man, we're getting towards the end here. I know that you've been a great guest. I knew you would, and we sure appreciate your time. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of plug your band, because you mentioned it a couple times. Yeah. And why don't you go ahead and tell us about it? I think Tony's got the link ready to roll. So tell us about Locked and Loaded.
Yeah, so it's a country band. We've been around for 13 years, I guess 14 years now. We play all up and down the whole West Coast of the United States. And it's a country cover band, and we do nothing but #1 hits. So you got all your older stuff like your Merle Haggard, George Jones, and all that kind of stuff, right? Then we have the new Luke Bryan and Luke Combs and, Billy Currington and Blake Shelton. But really, mostly what we do is the really cool stuff in the middle, like your George Strait, your Alan Jackson, your Brooks and Dunn. And, it's just a fun gig. Fun for me as a guitar player, because I get to sing and play guitar. I play lead guitar. Oh. And if you think about today's modern country music, it's crossed over to rock. It's crossed over to R&B. So I get to play like all styles, but it's still under the hat of country. And the crowds are great. They're fun crowds, and everybody dances and good, clean fun. It's a fun gig. I love doing it. And then I also have another side thing I do, which is an Alan Jackson tribute show, where I go up front and kind of dress like him, not look like him, but dress like him, and do nothing but Alan Jackson songs. And that's
is that right?
Clean fun too. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that sounds cool. What's the biggest crowd you think you've played in front of? And what did that feel like?
Well, as a youngster, I played with Johnny Lee. I don't know if you remember him or not, Looking for Love and Cherokee Fiddle. I don't remember that guy.
Uh-huh.
Well, Well, anyway, I play with him. So some pretty big crowds in the 2,000 to 5,000 range with him. Then I played with Glenn Campbell for 10 shows.
Wow, what a guitar player. What a guitar player.
Oh, incredible, phenomenal guitar player. And those were at fairs, and the crowds were like 2,000 to 3,000 people. That was fun. But as in Locked and Loaded, I played at some city concert series that were just huge, 5,000 plus crowds.
Wow.
So many people came out that they, completely outnumbered the police and public safety. They'd have to call everybody in from home. And yeah, we draw a big crowd. The country
good.
Yeah.
That had to feel amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I used to be in a hair band years ago, and
yeah,
never anything.
What instrument were you?
I was a singer.
Oh,
and
nice.
I didn't. We never played in front of anything that bad. We did house parties and practice in a practice studio, and then all the players went different directions. But
were you guys?
It was fun.
Covers?
We did all covers, man, like Rat and Dokken and
all
that stuff. And then the lead guitar player went off and started in the Bay Area, started a thrash band called Forbidden. And so they kind of went in that route, and I kind of faded away and got a job. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a fun one. It lasted.
You were the original lead vocals for Guns N' Roses, and then they went to some Axl guy or something.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to take it in a different direction, and they brought Axl in. I want to do Johnny Mathis hits, and they didn't want to do them. Stupid Slash.
Yeah, Mark, you got to check out the Grizzly Rose, and that's a little country bar we have out here. We got all kinds of great. I mean,
where's it? Where you at, Tony? Where you at?
In Denver.
Denver. Okay.
Denver, Colorado. Yeah. And gosh, I mean, over the years, I moved to Denver in 1990, and I've seen a lot of people at that bar.
They all come through.
Gosh.
I feel like Denver's premiere.
I saw Faith Hill there consecutive nights with their first album that came out. It's just starting out, and yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. I don't know if you guys are able to get out to do something like that. Yeah, we do
but mini tours. Like we'll go to one state and just do like 5 or 6 shows in a row real quick and then head home, Yeah.
Sure.
Look into Colorado. I'd love to meet you out here sometime.
Absolutely. Great. Come on out here.
We'll take you out to Tecton and see your show at night. That'd be great.
That's a done deal right there.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, hey, man, thanks so much. I'll go ahead and let you kind of do your last little bit here. I know we put the link to your band's page in there and stuff, but and then Tony and I are saying goodbyes, and then we ask people to hang out after the outro just to say our goodbyes off the air. You okay with that?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, go ahead, man. Last word, and then thank you so much.
Yeah, I would just say that being a guy that does a lot of instructional stuff, today's metal detectors. The modern metal detectors that we have right now are just absolutely crazy powerful, and you can't hang your hat over here or over here with these they're all kind of level, and I would say that if somebody is thinking about getting into metal detecting, 5 or 10 years ago, I might have told them to get a $200 or $300 machine and just try it, But here's the thing: today, the power of these machines and how easy they are to use, and what I mean by that is you just turn it on and pick a preset, and the presets are all so perfect right out of the box. You can't go wrong. And I would encourage anybody who's watching the show, who's thinking about getting into this hobby, to, instead of buying something cheap and getting frustrated and it ends up in a closet and you're not going to use it, watch some of my videos and all the other great videos out there and pick a machine. The budget could be anywhere from $250 to $300 up to $1,600, depending on what you get. But I have to tell you with full confidence that you're going to find stuff, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be worth it. You're not going to get frustrated, and don't be afraid of these crazy settings and everything in there. You turn it on, go to a setting, and you're off and running, and you're going to do good. So I would just like to encourage people to jump in and get a good machine.
Yep. Perfect. Well said. Excellent. Oh, hang on. We'll say our goodbyes off the air. Thanks again for coming on. You're a great guest, man. And, yeah, we'll get you on again for sure. But Tony, you got anything?
Yeah, just want to thank Mark for coming on. I absolutely love every topic that you touched on tonight. We've plugged your YouTube channel a lot in the chat. It's down in the description. You guys got to go watch these videos, instructional, and then just finds. If you're into relics, holy cow, please go over and watch Brass Medic. Mark does not disappoint. Puts out some fantastic content, and just so lucky to have you on tonight. We really do appreciate it. If you guys are interested in all the stuff that I'm up to, type in 5280 Adventures on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Put it in Google. You'll find me there. Come out and check out what we got going on, as well as, like Denny was just talking about, you can watch the show. We do record this on our Zoom call, and it does go up on my YouTube channel on Saturdays. So if you guys want to see our faces, I know we got a voice for radio, but yeah. If you want to see my face, see Ken's face, see what Mark looks like, come on over and just check out the episode. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'm back on YouTube after about a year off. I tell you, I'm back and trying to put some videos out. Now I got the weekly dirt back, so you can check out Adventures in Dirt. You can find me anywhere on social media, YouTube, any of the other crazy stuff, TikTok, all that stuff at Adventures in Dirt. It feels good to be putting out videos again, and appreciate all the support you guys are giving me in the comments and such. So thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody, and check out Relics Radio every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. But Tony and I are doing a lot of work on booking guests, and we've got a lineup that is already very heavy, and we're really looking forward to having some good guests. But hey, if you have a suggestion you want to get over to us, make sure you contact me. You can reach me at dk@adventuresindirt.com or find me on Facebook or the Relics Radio Facebook group. But hey, go out. If you're out this weekend, I know it's too cold here, right, Tony? Like, we're already frozen. We got snow. I think we missed our window.
Yeah, if you got a jackhammer, you can still get out. But
hey, if you're in the weather where you can get out, go find that good stuff and tell me about it. We'd love to hear about it. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you next time.